to fly in. The MiG Design Bureau is located in central Moscow, just a few miles from Red Square and the Kremlin. All the aircraft which made the MiG name so famous over the years were designed and in some cases built here. The company's current chief designer is Arkady Slobodowski, the man responsible for the MiG-29. When you first sat down with a blank piece of paper, how do you go about designing what is an amazing-looking aircraft and very different from all of the other previous MiGs?
To understand how all this happened, it's enough to draw 4 lines, just 4 lines. If we cut MiG-29 through the center line, we receive an aerodynamic profile of a wing. And the wing profile is the best aerodynamic structure. When we put the canopy, installed air intakes with engines, we created a load which this aircraft is capable to perform. In creating lift pressure, not only the wing is involved, but the whole structure of the aircraft. Here is all MiG-29 aircraft.
Arkady, what did the Soviet Air Force want from the MiG-29?
We wanted, together with Soviet Air Force, to create a soldier-fighter aircraft. Simple, reliable, an aircraft capable to solve all tasks, namely strike every target between a range of its activity, the combat range.
What was the threat that the MiG-29 was designed to counter?
It was to perform maneuverable air combat with F-16, Mirage or other aircraft of that time. There is no doubt, I think, that in close maneuverable air combat, MiG-29 is better. It has such a thrust-to-weight ratio, which no other aircraft in the world has.
Arkady, can you remember the first time you saw the aircraft fly, what it looked like, what you felt?
On October the 6th, 1977, this aircraft made its first flight. And for me, it was just happiness, just a simple engineering happiness.
But you are not a simple engineer. It was amazing to design this. This was your little baby. How did it feel for you to see it flying?
We all were standing at the Zhukovsky airfield. On the field we had an external command post. And when aircraft landed, there was a small pause. We were all very excited. I took off my hat, threw it into the air, and I cried. And in the evening, as is usual according to our Russian tradition, we celebrated this event.
One of the incredibly important parts of aircraft development are testing them under the stresses and the strains that they're experienced during flight. And that's what's going on with this MiG-29 here on the test bed in the MiG factory. Mark, can you explain to me what's happening here?
Here in the testing division for strength and pressure of MiG Corporation is tested airframe of MiG-29 aircraft.
And when you say you're testing the airframe, what exactly are you doing to it?
Well, to the airframe we put pressures and strains which the real aircraft undergoes during flight. In all points necessary for testing, like in real flight, like in real maneuvering, and in real air combat.
And why do you need to do that?
It's necessary to prove the service life of aircraft with a laboratory result. We need to guarantee the safe exploitation of the aircraft during its life cycle. During flight, different parts of aircraft needs different loads and different strengths, and changing from one maneuver to another, the location of the strengths are changed. And these loads during flight could lead to such noises, but fortunately the pilot during flight doesn't hear them.
company was founded in 1939 by two aircraft designers, Mikoyan and Gurievich. To name their company, they simply took the first two letters of their surname, put them together, and the legendary MiG name was born. The company began producing aircraft just before World War II, the first being the MiG-1, a high-altitude interceptor. But few saw service, because production soon changed to what the Soviet Air Force really needed, which were ground attack aircraft to counter the invading German armies. But it was immediately after the war that MiG began to make its name, when, in 1946, it produced the Soviet Union's first jet fighter, the MiG-9. And as you can see, it bears many of the classic design hallmarks that made future MiGs so instantly recognizable. The Korean War was the first conflict where jet aircraft were extensively used in combat, and it was here that the MiG-15 made its debut. It was fast, effective and highly manoeuvrable, and it caught the Allies by surprise when it appeared in the skies over Korea. In fact, it was so effective that it forced the American B-29 bombers to switch to night operations to avoid it, and it proved more than a match for the F-86 in air-to-air combat. Throughout the 50s, components for MiG-15s and other MiG types were manufactured in huge numbers by the company in Moscow. They were then driven 130 miles to the MiG airfield at Lukovice for final assembly and test flying. Although making the journey is easy enough today, during the communist era, this was a very restricted area. And with the Cold War at its height, the Soviet authorities were extremely secretive about the vast numbers of combat aircraft MiG were producing. Following the MiG-15, there was the 17 and then the 19, the Soviet Union's first supersonic fighter. Then came the MiG-21, or as we called it in NATO, the fishbed. Perhaps the Soviet Union's most recognizable Cold War fighter. A staggering 6,000 fishbeds were built, many right here at the MiG plant at Lukovice. The MiG-21 was supplied in large numbers to non-aligned countries around the world. It saw combat in Vietnam, Angola and the Middle East, and it's still in service with many air forces today. But the aircraft which bridged both the end of the Cold War and the breakup of the Soviet Union was the MiG-29 Fulcrum. It was designed as an air superiority fighter, and it first flew in 1977. It's renowned for its manoeuvrability, and because of constant updates, it's still one of the Russian Air Force's current frontline fighters. Although, ironically, the MiG-29 is now flown by NATO, the aircraft's old enemy from the Warsaw Pact front line, where Germany, a country once split by the Cold War, flies MiG-29 Fulcrums in the Luftwaffe. I've already been to some pretty sensitive areas on this trip, but this place, the Zhukovsky Flight Test Center, is the most highly restricted so far, and it's here that I'll be taking my flight on the MiG-29. Head of the MiG Flight Test Center at Zhukovsky and chief test pilot for the MiG-29 is Pavel Vlasov. He's also my pilot for today's flight. What has been your role testing the MiG-29?
If we are speaking about exactly this aircraft, I was a test pilot who performed a maiden flight of this our MiG-29M M2 aircraft at the 26th of September 2001.
How important for MiG is Zhukovsky?
Zhukovsky, it is very important. As I told you, we have 3 flight test facilities in different places. We have our company's own airfield not so far from here at Lukovice. But Zhukovsky, thanks for first of all, for special runway, special equipment for a flight test, such as telemetry and so on, a lot of things. It's historically, it is exactly that place where each our aircraft performed their maiden flights.
It's a real honour to fly from an airfield that's played such an important role in Russian aviation. And with the flight approaching, it's time to get briefed.
As you can see on this map, this is the capital of Russia, Moscow, and we are located southeast of the Moscow, somewhere here, and our flight area is located east of Moscow. On this chart you can see our airfield Ramenskaya, which has the biggest runway in the Europe.
Okay, John, are you ready for startup?
I am ready for startup, Pavel.
Good. Так, правый рот на малом газе, 29 вольт от правого. Запускаю. Okay, John, starting up right engine now.
Отказ бокового канала.
What's the lady
Нет
asking
ножниц
us?
стабилизатора.
It's okay. Initiate the fly-by-wire self-test only now.
Okay, there's something you had to do a check of the fly-by-wire system in a tornado sometimes.
Yeah.
Борт 1, 5, 4.
Just as in aircraft like the Eurofighter and the F-18, automated warnings in the MiG are delivered by a female voice. Pilots, it seems, are more inclined to listen to a woman than a man.
Air refueling prop is extended.
That's a new feature for this model, isn't it?
Yes.
Joining us for the early part of our flight is the naval version of the MiG-29, the K model.
Okay, now the K is taxing out. On your right.
It's a very handsome-looking aircraft, Pavel. Very handsome.
Thank you for the compliment. Oh, we are ready. Good weather.
This is good German plane weather. What are your limits for takeoff?
For takeoff, it's 60 meters cloud base and 400 meters for visibility.
Okay. When do you make your ejection seat active?
It's already active.
Okay, then mine now is active.
Yes.
I've used the ejection seat before, Pavel.
Yeah, used?
Yes.
When and where?
I was in Iraq in the war in 1991.
Yes.
I was shot down.
Wow, bad luck.
Very bad luck. Do you know what I was shot down by?
I believe something with the missiles.
A Soviet missile.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
That's okay. This is a huge runway. How long did you say it was?
It is 5,400 meters.
5,400 meters, and how wide?
100 meters.
That is a massive runway. In fact, this runway at Sukovsky is almost a mile longer than the main runway at Heathrow Airport.
Everything looks all right.
That's very good. That's most comforting.
Okay, we cleared.
Высота опасная.
This lady's voice tells us we are flying too close to ground.
Okay, and what, 150 meters, what's that, 400 feet? 450 feet.
Yes.
When you're practicing your low flying, what sort of height would you normally fly at?
It depends on what we are going to do, you know. So normally it's around 100 meters and less a little bit.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we are test pilots, not operational pilots.
When I joined my Tornado Squadron 15 years ago, this aircraft was the one that we actually feared most if it ever came to a war situation. Thank God it didn't. Our main tactic to try to avoid the Fulcrum was to fly as low and as fast as possible. If you saw a MiG in formation with you as close as that one, you'd know you were in serious trouble. one ever got behind you and you saw it doing this, there'd be no need to ever claim your pension.
Pavel, what was your first aircraft that you flew, the first MiG?
It was MiG-21
Right.
in 1979.
How old were you when you started flying the MiG-21?
MiG-21, I was 19 years old.
And how long have you been involved in testing the MiG-29?
Since 1989.
So you are an incredibly experienced test pilot then?
Maybe not incredibly, but just experienced.
Up and away.
MiG designer Arkady Slobodowski had told me the MiG-29 has a huge thrust-to-weight ratio. Flying it, I can tell him he's right. And it's certainly a lot more manoeuvrable than the Tornadoes I used to fly in.
This is which version of the MiG-29 is this one?
This is MiG-29M M2.
So how does this compare to the first MiG-29 that we're flying beside?
This one has a fly-by-wire control system. First of all, it can carry more weapon on the wing station. The number of it is increased up to 8, means 4 under each wings and plus 1 more on the ventral point. So this one has a definitely new radar with a quite powerful capability against the ground target. So that first MiG-29 was an aircraft for air defense only, and this became at last really multi-role combat aircraft.
Can you fly it in a mixture of air-to-air and air-to-ground role?
Yes, sure, it is possible. Normally we carried up to 4 air-to-ground missiles and up to 4 air missiles.
You would always fly this aircraft with 2 crew, yes?
No, it's possible to fly in a single version of this aircraft. So everything which must be done by pilots and the weapon control system can be done from any cockpit of this aircraft. But the twin-seater means you can share a workload during the mission between 2 pilots.
Why do you like the MiG-29 so much, Pavel? What's so good about it?
It's quite powerful flying vehicle, and the controllability performances, especially of this new version, is quite good.
If you'd have told me 15 years ago that I'd be flying near to Moscow with a MiG-29 on my wing, I would have said you were mad. Pretty amazing experience, and one that I never thought I'd have. Thank you, Pavel.
You are welcome.
Do you know, I
Most welcome.
never thought that I'd do that. That was. Do you know what really caught me out? When you did that hook, that I've never seen anything like that before. That was just unbelievable.
Each thing happens one time first.
Yes.
Made in Hook for you.
That's true. That was good. That was amazing. That was very, very impressive. I enjoyed that. I can't thank you enough. This has been a fascinating and intriguing trip to a company that only a few years ago was deep behind the Iron Curtain, and it's given me a chance to experience the power and the performance of the MiG-29, an aircraft which is an icon in the world of military air power.